Greetings, programs. Welcome to the grid. Today's game is to have a look at a student's efforts at a vehicle. We're going to see if we can get it set up for 3D printing. So sometimes you'll load your file, maybe somebody passed you a file, or you opened it on a different computer, and you're missing imagery. This could often be related to your textures. In this case, it's just the kids' blueprints, so we can do without them. It'll be fine. But if you need the files, you can relink them, but you've got to bring them along. So I was not sent the JPEGs. That's fine, no big deal. Delete these. We seem to be in an orthographic view, so I'm going to switch it to perspective. It seems to be disabled. I'm going to press D. That might have been the kid accidentally hit it, so I'll have to explain how that works. Because it can be very frustrating. If your viewport's disabled, all it means is that it's not going to update any changes you make, right, until you click on it. Be good for system performance. But I'm pretty sure we've got like a 6-core processor over there with 12 threads or something, so I don't think that was the concern. So D just turns that back to normal. Where am I on the left view? Uh-oh. I don't know if you can see with my hotkeys in the way, but okay, it's way off center. And if I go to center it up, I'm going to end up, with airplane parts all over the place. So, quick and easy way to do this is to group it. Doesn't really matter what it's. I'm going to ungroup it in a minute. And now we can center it all up. And now you can see it's back in the center of my grid. Okay. Thereabouts, I mean. I guess we could bring it above the waterline collectively. And probably each of these objects' pivot points could be adjusted, but we're not going to worry about that too much just yet. We're just going to talk about some of the things that make things better for a video game model versus a printing model. From a distance, without looking at the topology, I'm sure some topology work could be done, although it's not too bad. The wings and tail and stuff are great. Probably the body could be cleaned up a little bit. This is a fine asset for like a late 90s video game, or a low res, like you could pretty much just stick this in the background of a more modern game, off on the edge of the map somewhere. Nobody would take too close a look at it. It would look fun. So, successfully completed the silhouette of a vehicle. Kid gets an A. Okay. So what is going on here? Well, let's ungroup it. This is not going to work for 3D printing. So we did a color. We did like a windshield. We could have made it shiny. Okay, but let's see. Let's go down here. We use symmetry, which is good. Symmetry is a good way to work. Print. We have a relatively low resolution printer. We don't have like a resin printer or anything crazy like that. Uh-oh. Oh, right. Yeah, symmetry. So unless we exaggerate this grossly, something like that might show up on a 3D print. Maybe even negative 0.5 would be, In fact, there was no bevel at all, so wouldn't have mattered if we had a resin printer. But for our printer, we need to be exaggerating some things if this is what we would want. So I'll inset that once. Way off course. Z, recenter. Ooh. It'll place a little bit, but that's no bueno. Yeah. All right. Some of this stuff would need to be tied off as well. Um, you can't just like cut things in and basically if you can cut these in, but if you try to do anything with them, your edge flow is going to be a nightmare. So you do need to clean them up. I mean this is not good either. Let's just pretend this is okay for a minute. Whatever. Hold on. Can I? I'm not worried too much. The printer doesn't care about edge flow, right? Because at that point you've baked your model. Um, you're not doing like normal maps in real life or anything. But oh, these are. I don't know. Whatever. Let's try. Well, it certainly got less wonky. We got a crazy shadow there, but again, the printer doesn't care about shadows. Stuff like that. How did we get that? What happened to our inset? Oh, we didn't do an inset, right? Yeah, let's try our inset. May not go well. Might turn out to be okay. Yeah, yeah, that's. We can't just like pretend that's okay. We're gonna have to clean that up if that's what we want to do. All right, we're gonna come back to this. I don't. Yeah, we have enough undos. Okay, so we need to come back to that. I think it would be worth getting it cut in there. So I'm gonna look at some of that edge flow. I mean, this could be something as simple as welding that there. Okay. The next bit, these again, if we do an open subdiv, at least 2 iterations, right? There's no way our printer's going to pick these up. In fact, it'll probably just confuse it and make a sloppy mess. So I'm going to try exaggerating them and see if that will be enough. And then we may print the door out separate and then glue it in there. I think that may be the way to go if you want if you really have to have that crease, right? So also probably going to chop up this fuselage. 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, 5. At least 5 pieces because our print bed's not so large. And I'm pretty sure aircraft are put together in sections like that anyway, so if there are little seams, as long as you do like, you know, a relatively clean job gluing, that should be forgivable. I don't see a problem with that. It is, after all, a model. Okay. Tongue and groove is not going to work for us. Again, if we had like a resin printer, maybe that would make sense. But our precision's just not there. So let's look at these winders. Our open subdiv should be above the symmetry layer. Okay. Let's look at these winders. If we take like all these I don't know why there's an edge sliced straight through them. It's okay. It'll actually kind of probably affect the open subdiv a little bit. Let's just take all these and do this with them. What? They don't seem to be cooperating for me. Is there a reason? Is it because I've got like some kind of face constraint on? No, they should move. There we go. I think it just didn't want to. That was weird. I'm kind of glad it constrained it because that would have made a mess for me later. Okay. So if we're exaggerating this much, been an inset on all of them. I think our printer could manage that. I would be surprised if it can't. Now, should I have done the inset? Results in a very subtle curve there. I mean, in a perfect world, we would bow these back out, right? So like, in a world with higher fidelity than that which we have, we would consider something like this. I just don't trust. Yeah, I think that we're going to give the I think we're going to give the keeper of the printer some headaches if we do that to him. So let's not do that to him. Let's see if this is okay. All right. We have to clean up this geometry. That's not going to work, especially if we're going to cut this into parts. Oh, better make sure that I apply our window adjustments to all the windows, right? So I'm just going to go through and select them one by one. There's probably a pattern select tool anymore in 3ds Max, but I would spend as much time looking for it as I would spend just grabbing all these. I am going to get my regular select tool, not the move tool, just so I don't bump anything off course. I guess I'm not worried about selecting any back faces. I shouldn't be anyway because I'm clicking on these one at a time, but is it me or the windows get smaller going back? It's probably just me. Whatever. Airplanes are weird things anyway. You can be forgiven some odd details. Hold the Alt key, deselect that. Do our extrude. Or was it a bevel? It was sloppy. Okay. You really want to exaggerate these, so maybe like -1. That may be too subtle. Back to polygon mode. We were in bevel. -2, I think. I think that will be extreme enough. For the printer to take a stab at it. You know, you can really still see it from a reasonable distance. Well, how come these are like mega reinforced and these ones are not? Not quite sure what's going on there. Oh man, we've got these little cuts around the edges. Those are not going to work for us. Yeah, it's like there was an earlier bevel attempt, and it was so subtle. Okay. So undo. Let's grow. Grow. What I want to do is actually delete these, and then put fresh windows in. I have to bridge each one. Okay. Well, we're going to be at this for a little bit. I haven't gotten to the video editing quality where I'm speeding up parts of my tutorial yet, although YouTube's algorithms might prefer it. How are all of you getting on? I saw a joke somewhere that said the pandemic is a gamer's paradise. You know, sitting around with no social interaction all day. Nobody even upset that you're sitting inside alone all day. They're actually encouraging it. I've been playing more than my share of turn-based tactical games, pause and play tactical games, sitting around painting military minis. When they're finished, I'll show them off here. Man, what happened here? Are there bigger windows there? I mean, there are now. I don't know. We're gonna say there are. We're just gonna say there are bigger windows here. Because it makes the object interesting. You know, I don't know if they design aircraft windows that way. I'm pretty sure they don't. Just because... Should I be fair to the kid and look at the model again? Let's save this. So of course, when you're doing cleanup work on a model, you want to retain the designer's intent to the extent possible if you're passing models back and forth between people. Yeah, these were all... I see. What have I done? How did I do that? How did I make that particular mess? I have to copy like this. Alright. I need like these. Oh, um, might be easier to eyeball them in after I just. Okay, so this is truth told. If it were my model, I would just be like recreating all these sections, and that would save a lot of this effort. But sometimes you're far enough in, or you've got enough of a mess, or enough detail somewhere else that you can't afford that sort of, maybe you're on a crunch and you can't just like redo the whole thing. Sometimes it is faster though, but just for the sake of, I don't want to throw out work that the student has done. So, where possible, I'm going to retain it. And that means we're just going to eyeball these in here. They're not going to be perfect. Actually, if I was, okay, this will be much cleaner. If I put my connect straight across, then I'll know that these are plumb. And then we can connect straight up, and we'll know that's plumb. We're darn near it. And then we can do all these, and then we can get rid of the parts we're not using. Yarr. It's a little rough. Now, of course, it might make more sense to actually not do this little thing here, but actually have the windows edge loops cut all the way through the fuselage. But we're here now, and we could see with the OpenCiv div that they work okay. Not getting any like wildly terrible shadows or anything, so we're just going to accept that we live in Triangle Land. Maybe I should be doing this from here. That would be advisable. You're cutting stuff in by hand. Try to make sure that you're perpendicular to the surface you're cutting on. There are some tricks and tools for that. There's even a tool for aligning your viewport to your surface. But since we know the airplane's at least lined up on the grid a little bit, this is not too bad. Oh man, here's my manual cut though. I was wondering about that. What are you? Where did you come from? Oh, you're on the other side of the airplane. All right, I don't care. I was wondering about that. Oh, come on. Don't make me record the position of this vertex. That's another trick. It's like, why would you ever eyeball something into place when you can record the position of the vertex? If it's something this like obviously man-made and repeated pattern and such, like it's much better to be precise. Slow our mouse down a little bit. And I have to remember that I don't need this to be perfect. I just need it to be like kind of making window shapes, and if a couple of them are a little different, well, the airline replaced one day and they used a spare part from a different airplane, or they probably don't do that. Like it would be nice if 3ds Max had like a, I feel like it does under certain conditions. You can get a perfectly straight line. Okay. That's good enough. I gotta do more. Of course I do. Okay. Get our cut tool. And this time we're going to do it from the dead-on view, right? The orthographic view. Why you no cut? We had no like cut. Will it connect? Where's our connect tool? I'm missing it. I'm probably flying right past it. Edit vertices. Connect. So the problem we have is that these don't perceive themselves as part of this, right? Yeah. Oh, easy fix. I'm sorry. So I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to hit ring. I'm going to connect these dead center, and then I can just weld these. So I'm going to select these two little verts right here. Probably is important to use ignore backfacing at this point. Choose weld. Select two at the top. Choose weld. Okay. Now what? I think we can inset these. We're going to get that same geometry. So rather than cut that in by hand, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Like, how did the student get it? Oh. And of course I've got this line now that I so meticulously cut in. Yeah, so if we remove that, then inset these by polygon. Looks like the amount the student was using is 0.492, which is pretty close to 0.5. And now we cut our line back in. And of course, if I created a similar problem for myself, cut. That one works. Okay. All right. Everything's finally clean enough. Oh, we still have to go through bridging all these. But that was my original plan. My original plan was, okay, it'll be a little tedious, it'll take a little longer. Probably cost us 5 minutes. That's not a long time. Art is intended to be a patient process. Hard to call this art. We could say this is a craft. Crafts are a patient process. Under the right circumstances, maybe one day it could be art. There is certainly some 3D artwork out there that holds up. Will hold up. You'll be able to look at it 20 years from now and say that's darned impressive. That is a nice thing to behold. But the bulk of it is perfunctory. If it weren't for this line sliced through them all, this would be a much faster process. We would just grab them all and hit cap. I guess I could do that, but then I still have to go back through and cut them all. Time. Depends on my alacrity. Bridge. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. I think Monday I'm going to finish off that knight. I've been avoiding it for a little bit. It is obviously the most challenging chess piece. I like knights. And then the king and queen, you almost don't need a tutorial for those, because if you can make a pawn, and you can make a rook, and you can make a bishop, there's no part of the king or queen that is really more challenging than any of that. But the knight is certainly the most artistically interesting piece. It's the only piece that's really trying to be representational. More than where the other pieces are much more symbolic, right? And I guess, well, the knight's symbolic too because it's a horse, right? But it represents a man on a horse. But it looks like a horse. It's hard to say a pawn looks like an infantryman. Maybe you could make a case for Cromwell's Roundheads or something. I don't know. The bishop, maybe you can make a case that like the slit in his visage is like the hood or something. Like he's kind of sneaky. If you think about it that way, he's like a sneaky evil guy in the corner whispering, clever plans, machinations. Bit of a commentary there on the medieval church, perhaps. Or perhaps the word bishop is older, right? And we're talking about the Roman office of bishop. Chess was popular in and around the late Byzantine Empire, I think. So it might make sense. They might still have had something like a rank of bishop unconnected with the church. No, they were the ones who. I'm pretty sure they're the ones who came up with we're gonna convert this Roman office into the church office. So, I don't know what I'm talking about. Somebody could look it up. Where does the chess bishop come from? Is it supposed to be a medieval Catholic bishop, or is it supposed to be a military or governmental civic position? Or had those lines become so blurred in Europe at the time chess came about? Was it something more like, you know, Europe had a union of church and state throughout the Middle Ages that was arguably quite tyrannical from the perspective of an American. So, okay. All right, see, but those are not cutting the way these are. With these ones. Oh, I probably didn't clean them up. Yeah, I just didn't clean them up. So it should be a simple matter of removing all of these, and then they're going to make nice circles like the other windows. This is what you guys came here to see, huh? Right click, remove. Yeah, that's cleaner. Alright, even though we've got some that are, you know, funky shapes and things, whatever, those are like the cheap seats windows. Okay. The desperation seats. Airline seating is such a strange thing. I recently saw a video about it. It is really funny how wildly different the price is for what is really not that big a difference. Nice if you're doing it, but is never worth the price. From the people in first class than all the rest of the people combined. Wonder if you could find a way to do a coach only airline and have it be profitable. Probably not. Probably you'd have to cut costs a lot of other places. You'd have to be like, okay, well, we don't do these kinds of flights. I don't know what it would take. Bump your ride. Cocaine in the cargo hold, that would make it profitable. Passengers don't know it. Something crazy like that. Okay. I think these are going to serve our intent now. So let's give them a go. And we've got our much more exaggerated windows. So I think that'll be desirable for our printing process. We gotta figure out what to do with this, because like I said, I want to be able to cut these separate pieces. So ring, 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 banana phone. I guess I don't have to make mine line up perfectly, but it's a nice gesture. And then we'll do cut. Yep. And similar on the other side, and then probably, oh man, we're gonna have to shell this. I think we're gonna have to shell it. I don't know. That won't be too hard. I think I'll just make it a tube on the inside. I'm just gonna make it one big tube, and that'll be okay. All right. Printing is really different. You really have to think differently about your model, because if I just like press shell, I'm going to end up with these windows on the inside. I don't want that. So you wouldn't want that for a game asset either, but for different reasons. If this were a game asset, what we would be doing is working on a high poly version. And so like the windows that had originally been cut in were super subtle, but they might be fine for like, you might want to exaggerate them a little more than you had, but they'd probably be okay for your high poly to get your normal map off. And then your low poly model would just be extremely clean. It would just be a tube, pretty much. And there wouldn't be any windows or any other little tiny details on it. I will say the student got the proportions pretty good. Airplane can be a little deceptively difficult. If they do have like little funny irregularities. So it's not easy as it looks. Alright, unselected. Almost finished our fuselage today. I think we're going to do the fuselage and then we're going to take a break. And we'll make a small series of videos. We're going to do maybe 3. Why won't you remove? It actually like won't remove this. These ones come off, right? Alright, we'll do those. Okay. We'll do those later. So, the left side first. That's the simpler side. When you're getting going on something, always do the easy things first. You'll build confidence, you'll already be doing it, you'll be more inclined to continue. If you spend all your time thinking about the more difficult shapes, you're not going to get that practice in. And you're going to get discouraged pretty quickly. So, work on the things you can fix. And then, while you work on those, you can just sort of mull the harder parts over in your head. Think about different approaches you might take. Ring? We need a ring. Where's our ring tool? Whatever, there's one up here. Okay. And we're going to connect. This is an easy fix. Nothing particularly difficult here. I think maybe negative. Okay. Take this, bridge it, take that, bridge it, and so forth. You got these funny shadows here. That's just a consequence of the auto smoothing. The cylinder that you started with by default was smoothed. Um, where's our smoothing groups? Okay. So just pull this menu out because I lose things. Selection, edges, edit geometry, subsurface, render. Did they take the smooth groups out of this menu? Okay, I'm probably just not seeing them because I'm in edge mode. So in polygon mode, you get these smooth groups. So you could select the whole mess and choose auto smooth. It's not always the greatest way to do things. In this case, it's breaking things on a 45-degree angle. And you can see that we got some funniness around our door, whatever. Another way to do things, well, ignore backfacing isn't helping me any. That's not going to do any favors. Funky. Honestly, none of this matters because this is just like the way shadows are being cast, and that's going to change when we do our subdiv. And in the end, our print doesn't care about smooth groups. This is all just for rendering. So you can also clear them all. Right, then you see what you truly have. If these were all flat, perfectly flat faces. I like to do sometimes like 15. Yeah. And that'll just I don't know, please our OCD a little bit. Oh, here we still got something funny. So, is it because it's not welded? Yes. All right. So the reason, aside from just strange behavior, that I bother with smooth groups, even if they're not going to matter for the end result, is to see if I can catch anything wrong with my model. And sometimes they will make something stand out like a sore thumb. It's clean now. Uh-oh. You know what's funny is this is going to end up being our seam anyway. So I don't even know why I'm going to bother to weld it, but I am. I am because this is just me being weird. There's no reason to weld these. I should actually be busy figuring out how to separate this apart, but that will be less of a thought process if they're already all together. So that's my rationalization at least. Select all the way through. There we go. Okay, so that's cleaned up. Yeah. Every time I look at these, like, I just want to fix it all, but it's okay. It doesn't matter that much. It will not matter that much to the printer. It would matter for an artist trying to paint it in Photoshop or something if you had done the unwraps. I guess people don't do their painting in Photoshop anymore. They're all using these 3D painting programs, or like they just throw it in one of the 3D like Blender, like Mudbox or something. And ZBrush. They paint all their textures there, which is like really cool. But it's not the process I was brought up on, and so for me it feels like a cheat. What do I know? Alright. Weirdly enough, these would like an extra section. They're a little too... Yeah, it's better. You don't ever want to have like polygons that are extremely long. Okay, this one bothers me so much that I'm going to turn on, whoops, let me see, loop, and then ignore back facing. This one's just disconcerting, so I'm going to turn on constrained edge. Just slide it down a little bit. Whoop. And if I'm being honest with myself, okay, and then it's not so bad. One here. I told myself I wasn't going to fix these, right? And here I am. I mean, so much wrong about that. It's fine though. It's fine. I mean, heck, it's a kid's first vehicle. It's pretty darn good. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into figuring out the proportions, and they got a lot of that right, so I really am not in a place to complain about topology, which we hadn't covered at all in class before the end of the world was upon us. Now I'm pedaling to see if I can rationalize my existence, earn my keep. Of high quality, but consistent. This is not entertaining YouTube. I know that. Probably been a half hour already. What do they recommend? 10-minute videos? How do you do that? Well, you edit. The advantage of me going slow and obnoxiously like this is that at least... Do I still have my ignore back facing on? I just had this bad feeling I didn't. Yes, I do. Okay. At least... What? What am I thinking? If you are watching this and you're starting to learn some 3D stuff for the first time, then me going super slow and not having the means to like speed up parts of this or just kind of like show you a few tricks and then show you some crazy end results is that you're going to get a realistic idea of what goes into some of this stuff. And nothing here is going to convince you that a magical process is occurring whereby the computer interprets your wildest dreams and then 3D models are produced. Right? No amount of equipment does that for you. It's not the right software, it's not the right hardware, it's just effort. And a little spark of creativity and hopefully a little sort of determination, a will to get something done. That's the secret. Everything else, fun. These oughta. That's an Engon right there. Now, granted, it's like flat, but well, you know what? If it doesn't care, I don't care. This would have been a place maybe for some flow connect, but it's late for that. The hour is late. Okay. Somehow I've turned on my vertex snaps. I think I hit the S key on my keyboard, so I'm going to turn that off. And if I flow connected this one, it wouldn't improve anything. Because the rest are off. 40? Looks right. Okay. Hold the control key, connect, hold the control key, connect. I don't know what's going on at the back of the airplane here either. I feel like aircraft do not end that way. Like, they just don't. I feel like that needs to be rounded off. How bad is it when I turbo smooth it? Oof, that's rough. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay. Let's have. So this is a place where Flow Connect makes a ton of sense. Where'd it go? Even a couple Swift loops. And let's put one. Okay, got a set flow out of that. And I almost want to take this way down. Don't ignore back facing. Don't constrain to any edges. Z is your friend if you want to snap your zoom to something. I was like, why am I zooming so far? And then I remembered that I've got this giant aircraft and I'm trying to zoom in on this one little section. So Z will just reorient you, should reorient you. I don't know what's going on there. It should limit you to that. That did it. Still my zoom's a little off, but I think it's just because I'm so far away from the grid. Okay. Let's try. Much cleaner on the end, so we'll take it. What the student's intent there was. If I could see the blueprint, I might have some idea. Okay. So is the body done? Well, we've got to chop it into sections, right, like as promised. We got to think about our door. We got to think about the canopy too. Grow. Grow. Maybe we just get away with a detach. Conversation later about pivot points. It was in the center when we were working on the nose, but maybe it could have moved at some point in the modeling process. Okay. Hit S again. I gotta rebind that. Snap is not something I use that frequently. Maybe I should use it more frequently. Maybe the default hotkeys are trying to tell me something. Let's see. There's our final model, sorta. Yeah, I think that'll work fine. It won't be too hard to glue that. I don't think. May involve some sanding. Would rather see the other option I have is to like scale it in a little bit, but then what are you going to do when you try to glue it in there? It's going to be a total mess because you're going to have to like, yeah. I think I would rather have it almost fit but not quite, and then just force the kid to do some elbow grease, right? That sounded bad. I'm not forcing kids to do anything that they don't want to do. But builds character. Yeah. I've got a trench here that again, this is just going to drive the printer mad. But this is another section like, why not print this piece separate? Right? Yes. Of course. Then we're going to be able to put a tiny little shell on everything. Might not hurt to exaggerate that a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking about that. I really wish I could see the original blueprint a little bit, but another part of me wonders. No, there's going to end up being enough of a trench here from just. Man, I really want to set flow these two. Like, but again, I don't have the blueprint in front of me, so I don't know. Loop, set. Right, that just looks cleaner. But airplanes can be funky. Whatever. The kid will have to yell at me for my changes to the. They are not present at the moment, so. They don't get a vote. Of course, I will adjust it accordingly if there has been some egregious change that was undesired. Let's see. Yeah. Well, I say yeah. Let's delete that. And then we'll do this. Bridge. So we should be able to bridge these. I don't know what the problem is. Is there some weird shit happening on the other side? There is. There's like some weird stuff. There's this little inside piece. Okay, that's why. Because of the trench that was going to be there. So there's reason for that to be there, but not anymore. So ring, no, not ring. Loop, bridge. It bridges every other one. This is an old trick in Max. You just take bridge one of them, and then you grab the others. You hit loop. You deselect the part you did, and then you hit bridge. Okay. So now I'm going to cut this piece off, right? Yeah. I'm going to go one more. This doesn't really matter where I slice it, but this is where I will choose to slice it. So we're going to choose detach. Attach to object. It might do well at this point to start naming some of these things. So I'm going to say cone. Okay. Back to the dreaded canopy. You can tell I really wanted to work on this. Okay. This could again be something like the door that we cut out. That may not be the worst thing. I feel as though if we just cut this out, everything will be okay. Sorta, kinda. Mostly. Certainly that all looks a little bit cleaner, despite itself. This topology still needs to be done, so I'm not worried about where I'm tying it off as much. It's a little more okay. And heck, even that's alright. It doesn't have to be great, it just has to be good, right? Okay, so open subdiv on that. Glide that shit back into place. Excuse our language. Should be a family channel. "3D modeling nightmares, fun for the whole family." Yeah. Was kind of afraid of that. So this is not just gonna snapple into place like our door. And it's because we've got too many details that are not tied off anywhere. Gotta reattach this, re-weld it. Oh, what a colossal mess. Okay, you know what? I have a better plan. This and pretty much delete all of it. And it's just going to be easier to do fresh. At least these parts. And maybe most of it. Think about that. I'm going to keep these little 2 bits because they'll remind me of the shape. And goodbye. What did I get for holding the Alt key? Okay. Yep. Feel better about this already. So this is what that snap tool's for. So I'm going to press S. I keep hitting Z. I'm going to press S. That, right? That's not too bad. As long as I do these snaps with a relatively forgiving threshold, we'll be all right there. What are these guys? Right? So don't need this little sliver right now. Not until I find a way to find better geometry for it to connect to. Alright, so I think, like I was saying, if I'm a little forgiving with the weld threshold, these might just average out for me. Yes. Usually you don't want your weld threshold that high, especially if you're selecting large sections of your object. But for one or two verts, it's okay. It just means that I was willing to let the average distance between two vertices be like as great as 1. And then it would snap to that point. Obviously it was not as great as 1. It was probably like 0.56 or something like that. But I knew I didn't have any verts greater than 1 that I didn't want welded, so that's how thresholds work. Okay. So I'm going to do like this, I think. Bridge. Oh, we got a crooked bridge. We still got a crooked bridge. Must be miscounting something. Like I got a different number of sides here. Okay, I mean maybe I do at some level. Certainly this wants to come down quite a bit. A little too much. That's okay though. Okay. I know this gets symmetried, but it's bothering me that it's different, right? Went into a strange place where I was creating verts. Why is this so funky? That hurts to think about. Okay, so let's... I didn't want to do this, but... That's kind of okay. So now, of course, there's a design cut in here. But we need to be smart about how we cut it in. So it's at least this wide. It's probably this wide. And now's the time for our symmetry. Yeah, that looks better. Let's go ahead and bake that in. And it should just make thinking about all this a little bit easier. I kind of want to use our original canopy as a bit of a guide now, like I said I was gonna, right? So we can start thinking about how this all cuts in. There is going to have to be a curve back here. But we just want to be smart about all of it needs to be tied off somewhere. Then do our cuts. Alt-X just makes an object transparent, so I'm using our guide object, and I would like it to be a little less prominent. See how that looks. Fighting my viewports a little bit. Okay. Definitely want to have a slice down here. If you've got room for and you're not like forcing anything, it never hurts to tidy up a triangle in this manner. As long as it's not going to mess up like your edge flow horrendously. Let's see, speaking of flow, do we use our flow connect? Check the other side and make sure we haven't done something terrible. Well, we'll throw symmetry on, so that'll be all right. Yeah. Flow connect's sort of what I would prefer there. Now I said our symmetry was non-destructive, but it has been. So I'm going to have to go through and weld down the seam before I finish this canopy. And I think that this is a good place to take a break. So I promise the other video will be up very quickly. So you won't have to wait too long for it. But I was in a hurry and I didn't check my symmetry to make sure it was really clean. So I'll be back shortly.